Welcome to Hometown Heroes. This is your co-host Rick Irving, and it's actually Memorial Day, so it's actually Monday, and this is a pre-recorded show because we have some exciting stuff that we're going to share. Today was Memorial Day, and I attended the 96th annual Fort Worth observance of Memorial Day at Mount Olivet Cemetery, and our my co-host and our friend Mary Staffeld was she was a keynote speaker at that event. So we're going to go right into listen to her keynote speech, and I'm very proud of her. She did a great job, and I know that you'll also say, "Yeah, Mary, you did a good job." And then after the speech, we'll have Mary on. We did a little pre-recorded session today, and uh, we'll have a great podcast. So here is Mary's keynote address at the 96th annual Fort Worth Memorial Day ceremony.
And now to introduce our keynote speaker, a true friend of our memorial service, Captain Bo Huffstedler, Commander of Naval Air Stations JRB Fort Worth, Carswell Air Force Base. Captain Huffstadter is a graduate of the United States Naval Academy and a dedicated naval aviator with more than 4,000 hours in the air. And if you studied your history, you probably know Naval Air Station JRB as the former Carswell Air Force Base, and most importantly to me, my birthplace. But no matter what you call it, it would be an honor to welcome Captain Hofstadter, a true friend of the Navy, a true friend of the nation, and a true friend of Fort Worth, Texas.
It's been a Naval Air Station for 30 years, people. I joke. Hey, so for all the Navy and Marines that are here today, we got a saying: if it's raining, we are training. So we'll be doing some push-ups here afterwards. Make sure you get a couple miles in today for all those that have served. It's my absolute honor to introduce our keynote speaker for the 96th Fort Worth Memorial Day ceremony, a distinguished leader and a dedicated servant of our nation, retired Senior Master Sergeant Mary Staffeld. Senior Master Sergeant Staffeld's military journey spans over 2 decades, beginning with her enlistment in the United States Air Force in 1978. After serving on active duty for 8 years, she transitioned to civilian life, only to return to service in 2005 as a member of the 301st Fighter Wing at our very own Naval Air Station Joint Reserve Base, Fort Worth. Throughout her career, she held pivotal roles, including serving as a first sergeant, a position where she guided and mentored countless airmen, ensuring their own personal readiness and their own welfare. Beyond her military service, Senior Master Sergeant Staffeld has remained deeply committed to supporting veterans and all those who serve in our armed forces. She currently serves as the president of the Roll Call Organization of North Texas, dedicated to honoring and assisting all of those who have worn the uniform. Her leadership, compassion, and unwavering dedication to the men and women of our armed forces makes her an exemplary figure in our community. And for the veterans that are gathered here today, if you have not yet gone to a roll call luncheon, I would highly recommend that you take the opportunity to do it. I am blessed every time I go there, and they just do such a phenomenal job connecting us with our nation's history and telling the stories of all of those who have worn our nation's cloth. Today, as we gather to honor the sacrifices of our nation's heroes, we're privileged to hear from someone who has led a life of service and who understands the true meaning of duty, honor, and commitment. Please join me in welcoming my friend, retired Senior Master Sergeant Mary Staffeld.
trying to make this where you guys can for sure hear me, because I have a few words I want to share with you. Good morning, and thank you, Captain Huffstadler, for that introduction. Pull that off here so I make sure you can hear me. I'm blessed to be here as your keynote speaker today. I pray that the words that I say today add to the importance of this day. And I see so many familiar faces with us today. My roll call family is here in spades, I think. We got, if you're a roll call, stand up so people know who to go talk to about coming to a lunch. Our roll call people are everywhere. The lunch is one of the highlights of my month, that is for sure. Men and women who are serving here or have served their country and their supportive families are here. Men and women who, like me, raised their right hand, took a very special oath, and pledged their lives to defend and protect this great country. To be willing to lay down their lives for someone they didn't even know if it was asked of them. None of us knew at the time we took this oath if the blank cash we wrote would be cashed, but we willingly accepted the risk. Today isn't about us, though. Today is about those who had that check cashed, who have given the last full measure. As a veteran who has served across 3 different decades, as co-host of Hometown Heroes podcast with our very own Rick Irving, and as part of the Roll Call Board of Directors since 2017, I have had the honor of hearing so many of these stories. Stories that make you laugh and stories that make you cry. Stories that you will never forget. I want to share a few of those stories with you today. Let me start by telling you about Liam. Liam is a young man who I met while I was volunteering with Snowball Express when it was here in DFW. I volunteered in the kids area. I met Liam and we had an instant connection. He was probably about 8 or 9 at the time. Over the couple of days, he opened up to me. You see, I shared with Liam, like him, I lost my mom when I was young, just 10. Not to military service, but in a sudden and unexpected way. She was in a car accident that took her life. For Liam, his dad left to serve in a deployment and never came home. Things were different for Liam, though, than for me. For him, people wanted to talk, to let him share his pain, his fear, his anger, whatever he needed. For me, everyone, family, friends, neighbors, teachers, everyone, they just quit talking about my mom, as if she never existed. There was no counseling, no help through the trauma of such a sudden loss. No one asked me to share what I was feeling. I asked Liam to share whatever it was that he wanted to share about his dad. He talked to me about his hero dad. He told me of the things that he had done that he knew would make his dad proud of him. This sharing kept and still keeps his father alive today. I missed a year because I was deployed. The next year, when I saw Liam and his mom, I was working the luggage detail as they were coming in. Liam ran up, gave me the best hug I think I've ever had, and him and his mom said they were so concerned because they had missed me the year before and had learned that I had deployed. That year, when we were at the Joint Reserve Base, our F-16 pilots were at a static display where the kids could climb up, look in the jet, get a first-hand look, close up, experience what that was. And knowing those pilots, having served with them, I asked them to give Liam just a little extra special attention. And in true SPAD fashion, they complied. Liam smiled ear to ear, and the pictures I have of that day tell the story of him truly enjoying that day. I feel blessed for that time I had to see how this young man was able to thrive through his trauma. Sharing stories, saying their names, remembering them is what is important. I wish I could remember Liam's dad's name, but at the time, my focus was on Liam. But let me tell you some stories with names for you to remember. Most of us know Don Graves, World War II Iwo Jima survivor. You know, Don usually sings God Bless America, but this weekend he was in Washington, D.C., and if you were watching public radio, you saw Don be honored on that with Gary Sinise. Don shares the story of Medal of Honor recipient John Basilone. John was on a bond tour after receiving the medal for extraordinary heroism in combat in Guadalcanal, Solomon Islands, in October of 1942. He missed his buddies, though, and felt his place was on the battlefield with them. He went to leadership and asked to go back into combat. They complied, and as Don Graves always says, how could they not? He's a Medal of Honor recipient. John stormed the beach of Iwo Jima on February 19, 1945, and there, to Don's right, John took his last breath, but not before destroying an enemy blockhouse and leading a Marine tank under fire through a minefield. He gave his last full measure. Remember John Basilone. My friend, Air Force Vietnam combat veteran and longtime roll call member Bucky Gear has visited the grave on this day for more than 50 years of his best friend, Gary Johnson. Gary was part of Dust-Off 13 in Vietnam. For those who may not know, Dust-Off crews were lifesavers. Their mission was to do rapid medical evacuations. They got the wounded off the battlefield and provided critical care in the air. Their efforts led to significant increases in survival rate for the wounded. This was going to be Gary's last mission before he was to return home. And as happened all too often during that conflict, it was his final mission ever. He gave his last full measure. Remember Gary Johnson. To bring this even closer to home, I want to share the stories of Gold Star parents Terry and Elizabeth Burgess and Carla Wicks. You may know them. They're part of the fabric of our local community, and they do share their stories publicly whenever they're asked. Brian Burgess, son of Terry and Elizabeth Burgess, served in the Army's 101st Airborne. He joined the Army, as many did, after the 9/11 attacks. He wanted to avenge those who had died in the attacks, even though he didn't even know their names. In Afghanistan, he was part of Task Force No Slack. Brian went out on Operation Strong Eagle 3 in the Kunar province. They expected the mission to last 3 days. It lasted 9. Embedded with them was an ABC News war correspondent. He captured the battle in its entirety in a film called The Hornet's Nest. I would encourage you to watch it. Then imagine being Terry and Elizabeth as you watch that footage. You see Brian in a clip talking about his kids. Later you hear the words, Burgess is down. You see the heroic efforts of his team as they try to save him and 5 of his buddies that were lost that day. Brian Burgess was killed in action March 29th, 2011. He gave his last full measure. Remember Brian Burgess. Paul Joseph Stock II, PJ for short, son of Carla Wicks, served in the U.S. Navy. He was the oldest of Carla's children and knew at the age of 13, after seeing Top Gun, as so many other young men did, that he wanted to be a Navy pilot. After high school, he enlisted in the Navy with plans to get his college degree so he could do just that. After serving a couple of years, PJ went to leadership month after month after month, asking them to release him from service so he could attend college and become a Navy pilot. At the age of 21, while on active duty in 1996, he was killed in a vehicular accident. He never got the news that he had been released to go to college so he could fulfill his dream. He gave his last full measure. Remember Paul Joseph Stock. Remember the families too. Some of them stood up here today. I'll close with a couple of final thoughts on those families. As Carla Wicks has said many times, you don't get over it, you just find a new way forward. For Terry and Elizabeth, they founded the Gold Star Parents Retreat. They used their grief to help others who find themselves in a class no one wants to be in. Gold Star Parent. This retreat helps these parents find their new way forward. As for the movie, The Hornet's Nest, Terry has said that the grief was so bad he could barely get out of bed some days. The film may have saved Terry's life. He was able to see his son and hear his words. The movie helped Terry better understand what his son went through in those last days. If his son could battle so hard, how could Terry not? Terry and Elizabeth found their new way forward. Carla Wicks, not only a Gold Star mother, but previous executive director of Gold Star Mothers, former member of the Daughters of the American Revolution, and a U.S. Air Force Vietnam veteran herself, tells a story of how she used her grief to help someone else that really touched my heart. One day, while working as a dental hygienist, she encountered a new patient. Before seeing the patient, Carla was asked to not speak to the patient and that the patient would not speak to her. So that she did. She was taking care of the patient in complete silence. But Carla prayed that if it be his will, God would give her an opening to see what it was that was hurting this woman so badly. As she was working in silence, the woman spoke and said something that Carla knew that door just opened. Carla shared the story of her loss, which, following a long period of sobbing by both women, helped begin a journey of healing for her patient. Carla says, had she not lost her son, she could not have been used by God to help this woman who also lost her son. They were both finding their new way forward. Here and in cemeteries throughout the country and abroad lay the sons and daughters of this great country. They laid down their lives so we can live freely and spend time with family and friends today. So as you leave here today, I ask two things of you. First, remember their names and speak of them. Second, while spending time at barbecues, picnics, movies, if it rains, whatever it is that you have planned for the rest of the day, remind those you are with what Memorial Day is really all about. Honoring those who have given their last full measure. Thank you.
That was great. I was so proud of Mary, and she did such a great job. Afterwards, we made a little recording to play today to welcome you to Hometown Heroes. So let's take a look at that. The Hometown Heroes. And this is Monday. A little background
Sure
noise.
is.
But Mary is the keynote speaker today at Mount Olivet Cemetery. 96 observance that they've had with Memorial Day.
Right. Big crowd too. For the weather too. I didn't expect to see nearly that many people for all the weather.
It was pouring down rain.
Right before.
Right up to the top.
It's such an honor to be here with so many of we had so many roll call family members out there. It was amazing.
We did, and we had a lot of Gold Star families too.
I did not expect that many Gold Star families to be there. Nobody really realizes how many Gold Star families are in our audience. And just now, I just met a young man who his brother served in the Army, and his identical twin brother And while his brother didn't die in service, he had left the service when recently, a year ago, he lost his wife, and then he himself died of a broken heart. I mean, and that's a real thing. People don't realize that can really have an effect on your life. And so we've got one of our roll call volunteers praying with him right now.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's just part of the outreach and the roll call.
Right.
And we had roll call the other day, and we had the former mayor of Arlington telling us about the backstory about the National Medal of Honor Museum.
Right.
And it was such a great talk. I want to follow him around and get that video so we can have database or whatever.
Yeah,
video.
for sure. Yeah, he really did a great job explaining that. And I got a lot of positive feedback about how people didn't know all of those kind of details, that, you know, it wasn't just like, oh, that's a done deal. You know, that was something that they really fought for, and they, you know, with not much time either to figure it out. You know, but they pulled it together, and when they said that it was down to us or Denver, you know, Arlington or Denver, which one do you think is more patriotic, without even thinking twice about it? I think it's clear that it's Arlington.
It's a good location, beautiful museum. If you haven't been to it, you need to go to it.
Amen.
And take some time, 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah,
at least.
yeah, it'll take you maybe even a couple of days. You might have to go back another time. But you know, if you're a Cornerstone member or you become, so there's different levels of membership. So if you're a veteran, you can get a membership that is less expensive, and then you go as much as you want, as often as you want. So it's worth looking into, especially for veterans, because they really do want to make sure that veterans are going in there.
And that's just another great example of how Fort Worth, Tarrant County is a great place to live, because we have such great things like the Medal of Honor Museum. In the SJRB Fort Worth, we have good presence from them today.
Every year they're out here representing, and had the plane fly over by the Cowboys. So, you know, that was another cool thing. I wasn't sure was going to happen because of the weather. Well, look, the sun's trying to peek through even.
You know, I don't see quite enough blue in the sky to make a pair of Dutchman's pants, but my great aunt always said, if there's enough blue in the sky to make a pair of Dutchman's pants, it won't rain. So today's Memorial Day. You talked about some different Gold Star families, some different losses that people have suffered. You know, that's important for us.
Right. And you know, that was one of the things that in my talk when I mentioned that, you know, we get the pleasure and the honor of hearing so many of those stories, whether it's on the podcast or at the luncheon. And, you know, those stories really do matter. And so what I thought I would do is I prayed about and thought about what I wanted to say was, you know, what really matters and what is this day really all about? And it really is about those that in service to this nation gave that last full measure, in that they laid down their lives for people they didn't even know. And any one of us, you, me, and anyone who served in the military, even though we didn't give our lives, we were willing to do that. And I think that those people that did it, we can't forget them. And so, you know, when I looked at Bucky Gear's Facebook page, and he put on there about his friend Gary Johnson, I was like, man, that really touched me. How for 50 years he's been going every single Memorial Day to that grave, because that was his best friend. And he doesn't ever forget him. And as long as you don't forget him, they're still alive, right? And then the stories with Terry and Elizabeth and watching the Hornet's Nest. People haven't watched it, absolutely have to watch it. And just the story that Carla shared with us on the podcast about the woman at the dental office. They're all incredible stories, but they're all people that, whether, you know, it was their son or who, we saw at least 5 Gold Star family members stand up here today. It's talking about those loved ones. It keeps them alive, and it makes it real. And that's what Memorial Day is about. It's not about veterans. That's Veterans Day. It's not about those currently serving. You know, that's Armed Forces Day. I think that was in a couple weeks ago. But today is about those that gave that last service.
It's so important. Always remember.
Right. Never.
We've got a lot of stuff coming up. I'll kind of cover it at the end of the podcast. Mary, thank you so much for doing a great job today, being the keynote speaker. And thank you for being a great co-host for Hometown Heroes. And we will see you on Hometown Heroes. So that's the way we kind of ended the day at the cemetery. I hope that you had time today to remember what Memorial Day is all about. A time to remember. She talked about the Burgesses and Carla Wicks, and there's just hundreds and hundreds. There's thousands of Gold Star families around the country, but in our life, with roll call and the other places that the other organizations we're with, we know hundreds of Gold Star families, and that always remembering and never forgetting is so important to them. There's an event coming up on June the 1st. Here's just a little more about it. And I'm going to share a video I did last week on our show with Melissa and Wanda from the Air Power Foundation. And Melissa can kind of tell you a little bit more about how all this evolved and what they're doing. So here's Melissa. What are some other events that we have that people can get involved in?
Start with the first one coming up, and that is starting in June, and it's called The Walk, and it's to raise awareness for veteran suicide. Yep. Wanda has our shirt on, and on the back it says to fight veteran suicide. And for those of you who don't know, there's a number out there that is provided by the DOD, and it's 22. And that's what the number that they say veterans commit. That's the number of veterans that commit suicide every day, every single day. And we all know that number is probably much higher than that. And so we want to do our part. I mean, it's a hard topic to talk about. It's not, hey, let's go have a party and talk about, veteran suicide. But it is important, and it is something that we need to bring out from the shadows. We need to make it a topic that we can all talk about, because it touches every single one of us. And it touches not that even that military or that veteran, it touches that spouse, those children. And we need to provide valuable resources for those families to be able to maybe understand and have the tools to support, their spouse during this process. And, it's not just Air Power doing this. We have several organizations coming together to participate in this. It's a 22-mile walk throughout the month of June, so you can spread it out. It's a virtual walk, and you can go again to airpowerfoundation.org to sign up. And we're having a launch party on June 1st at Hoppin' Bar. We have Kirk Howells and Austin Alsop. They're going to come play some music for us, and we're going to take our first little walk around the block. Yeah, first mile. And we're really excited about this because when I first joined Air Power, I was really it was crazy when I first joined. It was like nonstop, and it hasn't slowed down one bit.
It hasn't.
And I love
Wanda keeps you busy.
She does, but I love every single minute of it. But I'll tell you, the more time that I spent with veterans, and I have some friends that are veterans, and hearing their stories and the struggles that they deal with, I can't sleep at night sometimes. I go to bed thinking about it. I wake up thinking about it. It's like, what can we do to change this? And I know this isn't going to solve the problem, but maybe it'll open some doors, and maybe we can save some lives through this.
It makes awareness, and it maybe helps some dialogue get made that might not have been made.
Yeah.
Because, there's not just the person that would take their own life, but then the family. It's just a ripple effect throughout the family and the community and friends. And, it's so difficult to go through that process, and it's good to have help. Terry and Elizabeth Burgess have the Gold Star Parents Retreat, and they've opened it up not just to military that have gotten killed in action, but those military members that have taken their own life. So, it's really a great place for those parents whose sons and daughters took their own life to come together to be with others because I mean the grief is
it's real.
the same, it's doesn't matter, it's it affects the families the same way. So
Yeah, and we really encourage people who are going to walk with us through the month of June to share their stories. We're going to be following stories on social media. We want people to submit their stories. We have a wall of honor, so if you have a loved one that has lost their life to this battle, we want to still honor them. We want to share their stories. We want to celebrate them because their life mattered, and we want their families to know and the country to know that their life mattered. And we can also, if you are a survivor of suicide, we want to celebrate that as well. So
Absolutely.
You can definitely join our Wall of Honor. And all the funds that we raise through this event, I'm very excited to say this, is that we're going to turn it right back around within a couple of months, or within a month, really, less than a month. And, we want to give away 2 service dogs. We want to provide some retreats for families. So it's going to go right back into the veteran community.
that's good. Just a word to the wise, to people that procrastinate, don't wait until June 30th to do that 22 miles. So
I'll be walking a lot.
You wanna
And
do-
what's really wonderful, even at our launch party, we're going to have some, like Mesa Springs will be there, resource recovery. They're going to be providing tools. VA may be out there providing some resources and tools. And there's this set of questions that you ask someone, and it determines where they are on a scale of their suicide ideation, I guess. And so it gives you the tools and the solutions or the steps to do what's next. Because a lot of times we don't know what to say, we don't know what to ask, and then we don't know what to do. So we're going to have those resources available on June 1st.
absolutely. So that's just a little bit about what's going on. June the 3rd is Women's Veterans Day luncheon, and there's still time to make a reservation. There's a QR code up there. And hopefully you can take a shot of that and go to that. The women veterans are just as important as the men veterans. So make plans to attend the Women's Veterans Luncheon. And then July the 31st is another Air Power Foundation event, and that's the Patriot Roundup. You can go to Air Power Foundation, find out more about it. It's going to be at the Cowtown Coliseum in the Stockyards. Last year, we had a great time at the Patriot Roundup. And then in October 25th, we're going to have the Super Bowl. Not the Super Bowl, the Sky Ball. I don't know why I said Super Bowl, but again, that's another Air Power Foundation event. It's the big event. It's a military appreciation night. There'll be, I think, about 40 or 50 new recruits get sworn in, probably by a Medal of Honor recipient. So there's just a lot of things coming up in the near future. And then Roll Call has an initiative to sponsor a vet. Each month we have a luncheon with about 500 veterans, and the veterans eat free, so it's pretty expensive to put on a luncheon like that. And for $20, you can $20 a month, you can sponsor a vet, and it'll also help with some of the expenses of taking our veterans different places. So that's at roll-call.org. I'm kind of getting tongue twisted today, but that's a great event. And I just want to remind everybody that in June, Roll Call is going to be the 20th instead of the last Friday in June. There was we had to reschedule it because the church we're using at Willow Park had something else scheduled. So the reservation line, Mary, I think, said it'll open about the 9th of June. So you get the email. If you aren't getting an email from Roll Call, just go to roll-call.org and you can sign up to be a member. It doesn't cost anything. We don't sell your address to anybody, your email address or your information. We just use it so we can send you a newsletter and keep you updated on different things that are going on. So again, that's June the 20th is the next Roll Call meeting. Well, it's been a good Memorial Day, and I missed having Mary on here live, but she did a great job today. And we are going to end this today with Don Graves, and he's singing God Bless America on his 100th birthday. Last night on Saturday, I think it was on the public broadcasting system, Gary Sinise was having a Memorial Day program, and it's all over the website, where there was an actor that kind of told Don's story. And I mean, knowing Don personally, it brought tears to my eyes. So Don's a great American, just turned 100 years old and still blowing and going. So that's it for this episode of Hometown Heroes, and we'll see you next week. Iwo Jima survivor Don Graves singing God Bless America on his 100th birthday.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above, from the mountain to the prairie, to the ocean, why wherefore God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, our home sweet home.
Thank you for being a part of Hometown Heroes podcast. Visit our YouTube channel and subscribe today. We look forward to seeing you next week on Hometown Heroes, the voice of heroes, the voice for heroes.